A marginal plot or marginal histogram is a graphic that can show us the relationship between two variables and also information about the distribution of each variable independently. Here, for example, I have data from Old Faithful Geyser. This is the eruption time and the waiting time following that eruption time. If I want to plot this in a scatter graph, we can see the relationship between these two variables where indeed there's two interesting things here. Both when the eruption time is longer, it would seem the waiting time till the next eruption is longer. And there's this interesting clustering effect that's going on. To view this with a marginal plot, we're going to put subplots along the top and the side of this graph to view histograms of the data. Let's go ahead and do that by splitting both the x-axis and the y-axis to create my subplots. I'm going to swap my view here so you can see a little bit better what I'm going to do next, because I want to make the distance between, or basically the size of each of these subplots I want to be smaller to have this marginal look. To do that, I can go into the objects that were created for each one of these subplots to control them. And for the one on the right, I will reduce down the width. And for the one on the top, I will reduce down the height. So I can control these in order to create this marginal look to my subplots around my main plot. I'm also going to change the distance between the subplot and the main plot to be none. I think that's more standard for this type of data. Now let's add our histograms. I'll select the eruption data, add that histogram, but not to the main plot. Use the menu selectors to place that up above. Now this is really starting to form. Next, we can do the waiting time histogram. This is going to go though along the y-axis. And again, to the right of our main plot. There it is. There is my marginal plot. I think this looks really nice. A couple of other things I would do. I would turn off the X and Y axes labels for the subplots. That's kind of typical for this type of a graphic. You also might want to change the box style to be only on the axis. Okay, so here's your pro tip I want to give you for this type of graphic is that although this definitely gives us a lot of information about the bimodal distribution of both of these variables, sometimes histograms can have these binning effects where you see that for moderate sized data, you can see one bin is higher than another, but we can go into our histograms and change it from stairs to smooth. That creates a really elegant look that I think it's pretty common that graphs like this use the smooth histogram. It's also known as a kernel density plot. And you have a slider that you can use to adjust that to see a little more detail in that distribution. And the last thing that I'll show you, although this looks very nice, is you might want to then zoom in on the graph. You can click and drag if you want to have a little tighter region around the data itself, and you can do the same thing in each direction. Now that will create a restricted region around the graph that's very specific to this data set. So if you want to remove it, you can always come over here onto your axis settings, or just hover over that axis and you can see there's a little arrow button that you can click to remove that zooming or the restriction of that axis. You could just bring it back again quickly. There you go. There is your introduction to creating marginal plots in DataGraph.